No more grumbling. Stop your cries. Hey yo, it's yokai time. Hello, welcome to another Keeping BZ. Where this time, normally Brandon and I do commentary, but this time Brandon is my prisoner.
Oh no.
He cannot escape. I am finally showing him Yokai Watch. This is the third one.
This is the, yeah, you said the third one, so this is like, from what I understand, this is like kind of the rarest one. Like whenever I see Yokai Watch 3 in stores, it's always like $300, while the other two are much more common. So I'm gonna guess this came out in the US, but it did not get the same level of distribution.
Pretty much, yeah, as far as I'm aware. I've tried looking it up. Let's say I'm not playing this on 3DS, but I am playing it through means. Nintendo will never find out. But yeah, this is a series I love, but it also frustrates me with its flaws. But I'm hoping here in this video to show both what I love and what I don't like about the series. I will say 3's the best one, not necessarily story-wise, but gameplay-wise. And there will be a lot of spoilers. I'm not sure how many people care about the Yokai Watch 3 story. It doesn't really matter. But this is going to be a bunch of post-game content. So I'm sorry, Brandon, but I am going to be spoiling you on Yokai Watch 3.
Oh no, it was on my list of games to definitely get to. I mean, I've heard these games are good, but...
I like them. I think they're more interesting than the modern Pokemon games, but there's apparently like a rivalry between Yokai Watch and Pokemon for a while. And like I feel like a lot of Yokai Watch fans are either kids that grew up with this series instead of Pokemon, or people who fell off of Pokemon and came to Yokai Watch, and I'm in the latter category. Just because I feel like Pokemon doesn't try anymore.
I mean, Zach, you're right, but the idea of Yokai Watch having a rivalry with the biggest media franchise possibly of all time is, I mean, it's cute, I guess.
Oh, I mean, like, not the games, but the fandoms.
Sure. The vast Yokai Watch fandom, which I'm sure there's a lot of fans as well in, like, Japan.
Yeah, the series didn't do so well outside of Japan, which is why we did not get 4. Which 4 is a Switch game. Although from what I've seen of 4 looks like it has completely different combat. That one looks like it plays like Ni no Kuni of all things.
Oh wow, bizarre. So, I mean, is it technically a 4? Is it more of a spin-off?
It's called Yokai Watch 4.
Okay.
Yeah, so we are at the Pavilion, which is a way of finding rare yokai. Once per day, you could come down here after getting an invitation, and you'll be given food, and then you'll be given a chance to battle and befriend rare yokai. Although, good luck befriending anybody in this game. So the combat of Yokai Watch series is generally auto battle. My characters are acting on their own. What you're seeing on the touchscreen is me giving specific orders. I can't command them to do specific things, but I can do mini-games to, say, activate Soultimates. Which Soultimates are a thing you can do when their soul meter is full. The soul meter is the glowing gauge over their character portrait. I can also move them around. Positioning is very important in Yokai, although Yokai Watch 3 does it differently. Here you have a 3x3 grid, which I think is the biggest improvement. I think this adds a lot of depth and strategy to the game. Whereas the previous 2 games, you sort of could rotate your yokai. But here you have a lot more freedom of movement. I did like the rotation, but I think this is more fun. And there's so many mechanics, so I apologize. I'm going to be rambling about everything for a while. This is the Yokai Blaster, and this is me using the friend mode of it, because it's random if you get friend or foe mode. Friend mode is supposed to make befriending easier. Supposed is the key word there. If it feels like giving you friend mode. Foe mode deals damage, friend mode raises their affection gauge if you can hit them.
So this, I mean, when you say befriending characters, Pokemon has capturing the Pokemon in a ball, but befriending enemies to make them part of your team is something I'm more used to in like SMT or like a Persona game.
I would say it's closer to that, but SMT3 negotiation is easier than befriending a yokai.
Oh wow, jeez, something easier than in Nocturne.
The demon negotiations are kind of bullshit, but at least you know, like, if the demon doesn't like you, they just tell you. In this game, you do everything possible to befriend a yokai, and then you don't know until you win the battle. And then after the battle ends, they just say, "Nyan off." So, like, you'll give them $100 food, which is supposed to be, like, you give them their favorite food, you spend $100 on it, you feed them, you use the friend mode of the Yokai Blaster to raise their affection as high as possible, and then at the end of the battle, it still just doesn't happen.
Okay. Great.
The most frustrating thing about the series, just getting new yokai, is so absurdly annoying and takes far too long. Whereas the Pokemon, you throw a ball, and then they either escape or they don't. And if you fail to catch them, you could throw another ball. Yeah, but that's the Pavilion. That's more of a side thing that you can do to gain experience for your yokai, or potentially, if you're super lucky, get rare ones. And this is me showing off that you can have any yokai escort you around the world. It should be noted that only specific people can see yokai, so if you're running around with a yokai, it's not like the average person is going to see it.
They're invisible to, like, NPCs?
Most NPCs, yeah.
Okay.
Like, the Yokai Watch, the main gimmick is that you're supposed to be able to use the Yokai Watch to see yokai, but there's so many NPCs who just conveniently have the ability to see them without it. And the amount of people that could see a yokai without a Yokai Watch just grows as the series goes on. Starts to make me wonder what the point of the Yokai Watch even is. Well, I guess it's to actually summon yokai, because none of the other NPCs can summon yokai.
Sure.
Because you need the Yokai Watch. You need the Yokai Watch in order to use the medals, so I guess there's that. And this is me showing off the main thing that made me want to play Yokai Watch 3, the Build a Nyan. Yokai Watch has more of an obsession with Nyans than Pokemon does with Pikachu. And that's saying something, because Pokemon is very obsessed with Pikachu. But there's like 60 versions of Nyans.
That makes sense. I mean, it's cats. You gotta make what's appealing to your audience.
I mean, they are cute, it's just there's too many of them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Korean Nyan's pretty cool. You get to choose their technique and their Sultimate. I wish you could choose their In-Spirit, but eh. You get to choose their ability, which, if you know about Pokemon, it works kind of like in Pokemon, where yokai have their own signature abilities. His current one is Killer Comeback, where he deals damage after he takes damage. Sultimate is the special move that depends on the yokai. And then different Sultimates also have different ranges of effect. And then Technique is essentially an elemental spell.
Okay, yeah.
The yokai can take one of 5 actions on their turn that they choose. And what they choose is generally based off their personality. There's Attack, which is your regular attack. Technique is an elemental spell or a restore spell. In-Spirit is a buff or a debuff. There's Guard, which will raise their defense and let them take less damage. And then there's loafing, and loafing is bad because it means they skip a turn. And if they're loafing, they also cannot participate in a combo, which you do a combo by having yokai stand next to each other. But then, something I really like about this game, and it's the main reason I like the 3v3, is that you can also have yokai stand behind other yokai, and that'll protect the yokai standing behind them. If you wanted to protect your yokai in the previous games, you had to use a specific ultimate, which would draw aggro.
Okay. I mean, that is a cool feature. Reminds me a bit of, you know, how in some of the Final Fantasy games there's a row system where you can have characters in the back row or the front row, and many times you want your magic dealers in the back row because they're a ranged attacker and you want them to take less damage. But, of course, here it's a 3x3 row, so it gives you a little more strategy of where to arrange them.
Yeah, I believe, like the Final Fantasy rows, don't worry about the Hazy Lane. This is my first time doing it. And I accidentally left too early, so I just cut it out. I believe, like the Final Fantasy rows, if I heard correctly, if you stand in front, you deal more damage, and if you stand in the back, you take less damage, but I can't confirm that right now. But that's what I've heard, but I don't think the person I heard it from confirmed it either. Mostly just positioning is used for getting yokai in the right positions to either protect each other or to attack together. And then here's the bug catching system, which I had to get very familiar with in order to get the S rank watch. There's a bajillion minigames. I didn't even have time to show off the action RPG, because that alone would have been the entire video.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Yokai Watch did the same thing that a lot of franchises, and a lot of handheld franchises in particular, like to do, where, like, the last entry is usually, like, them trying to put together everything they've learned and be like a swan song for the system. And they really did, from what you've described to me, put, like, everything possible into this game to try to make it the biggest and best. And in some ways it is, but it also comes with its own flaws because it's a Yokai Watch game.
Yeah, this Yokai Watch 2 and especially 3 are bloated. And it wouldn't be so bad. Oh, this is the train. I fucking hate I hate the train. I hate the train so much. And I'm about to show why. This is what riding the train is like. It's realistic. I could fast travel, but I wanted to show the train purely out of spite. I hate the train.
For choosing the Echo Line today.
This is what you do.
Oh. And you have to, like, manually choose what station you get off at when you get to it?
Yes.
Oh.
Not only that, I don't show it off here, but if you choose no, it shows a cutscene of people getting on and off the train, and then you just continue riding. Now imagine you did that. Do you see all of those? Well, we won't see it here. Yeah. Do you see all those places on the touchscreen? There's all these places.
Yeah.
Every time you go to one of them, it'll ask you if you want to stop there. And 99% of the time, you have no reason to ever stop anywhere except for, like, Springdale, Fortune, Harrisville, and San Fantastico. So the game will ask you, like, 50 times in between if you want to stop somewhere, and you have to say no. And then you get the cutscene of people getting on and off the train, and then you'll have them riding the train. And sometimes yokai attack you on the train, but other times you just sit there and you just wait for the train to get to the next station.
Cool. It's like a real train. Isn't it great though, Zach? It's like a train simulator. It like, you know, the real experience. It's like actually if you had to ride trains out in like the Japanese, like in the smaller towns or in the countryside, you have to take, you know, trains like this. And it's training you for life because this would be really fun.
Thank you for choosing the Central Line today.
I mean, if this is how trains work in real life, I guess this taught me how to use a train.
Yeah.
Maybe.
See? This is definitely something that you should have in a video game.
I like how Jibanyan keeps looking at the screen as if to say, dude, you can fast travel. I know. I'm showing this out of spite, Jibanyan. Don't worry about it.
It's interesting. I recently played the Wii game Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles: The Crystal Bearers, and in that game it has sort of an interlocking world, and you do eventually find different train stations to travel between the different spots. And when you get on the train, it will travel in real time. It will like actually travel to the place. But if you walk up to the guy that handles the door on and off the train, as soon as you get on the train, he'll ask if you just want to get there already. And if you say yes, you can skip the traveling entirely.
I wish this game did that. The only way this game lets you do that is if you unlock the Mirapo, which is your fast travel system.
And how long into playing this game were you able to actually fast travel, Zach?
Hi.
Over 10 hours.
Ugh. Well, I guess that's not as horrible as I was expecting.
Anyway, the game lets you re-fight bosses, and I wanted to show off the one I think would be the most interesting.
Oh.
Yeah, he's interesting. I'm not gonna spoil why. There he is. Anyone who knows about Yokai Watch 3 knows about Rongo Swirl. Rongo Swirl's kinda cool. I really like the boss fights in this series. The boss fights are the highlights. As you might imagine, the boss fights are usually the highlights of any game.
Hell yeah! Yokai Watch 3 mega fans that definitely exist. Sound off in the chat. Is this your favorite boss? I bet it is.
Hey, you have no idea. When I look at the Yokai Watch OST, because this is one of my favorite video game soundtracks, because, man, the Yokai Watch OST slap. There are people that are just absolutely loving Yokai Watch series, like it's the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
And I'm someone that's a fan of these games, but that's just something you see with a lot of nostalgic games, and it's so weird to think of Yokai Watch as nostalgic, considering this game series came out when I was an adult, but... there are just people that will say nothing bad about a thing they like. I think we talked about it before, how you can just look up gameplay footage of any random awful game and you'll see nothing but praise for it.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was somebody's game.
Yeah. The only difference is that Yokai Watch deserves the praise, but it also deserves some criticism, and the only reason I criticize it is because it gets so close to being such a good Pokemon replacement. And the only reason why it isn't is because it makes so many baffling decisions that make it really hard to recommend to people. But man, when you do boss fights like these, it really makes these games worth playing. I really like having to... The minigames are really cool. They're simple, but they add so much to the combat and make it interesting because you have to manage all of your yokai. And during the boss fights, they do a really good job of using this game's unique lock-on system where you throw a pin at the enemy. And then during certain boss fights, you'll either have to target specific locations of a boss, or you can even use the pin to throw at specific attacks to stop them from happening.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this gimmick for a boss is pretty cool.
And I really like how the bosses really use the 3x3 grid. You'll see on the touchscreen that he's placing lightning traps, and they're slowly switch from no color to yellow to orange to red. And when it's red, that's when it's about to deal damage. So it really makes you think about the positioning of your yokai. The Yokai Watch games can be fairly challenging, but I would never call them challenging in a bad way. I would say they're designed very, very well. Something I can't really say about the modern Pokemon games, which are so easy that you basically win the game as soon as you put the cart in the system. Some people might say the same about the old Pokemon games, and they might be pretty easy still, but I maybe it's nostalgia talking, but I don't remember them being as brain dead as modern Pokemon can be at times.
Mm-hmm.
Where you just use the same move and it one-hit KOs everything you ever fight.
I would like to play Arceus, like, one day, but at the same exact time, it might be a similar situation.
Oh yeah, I hear a lot of people say they really like Arceus. I hear Arceus isn't as brain dead, because I think Game Freak actually had some time to make that one. Yeah, Arceus is one I'd like to play. Like, I don't mean to make the modern Pokemon games sound like they have nothing good about them. Because there's even things that are good about Scarlet and Violet. I think Scarlet and Violet probably has some of the best writing I've seen in Pokemon in a while. It's just too bad the gameplay surrounding it looks extremely boring. But who knows, maybe just because it's Pokemon it would still work out for me. But I couldn't justify getting Scarlet and Violet after seeing all the horrible glitches.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure some of that has been patched after launch, like any video game that comes out nowadays, but it still was really kind of unnerving seeing a Pokemon game come out screwed up and people just being like, but it's Pokemon, it's fun. And it's like, yeah, guys, but it's the biggest franchise of all time. This should be better managed than this.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, we interrupt this battle to bring you an epic drum solo from Rongo Swirl. This is the reason I want to show off this boss battle specifically. I love that Jibanyan is rocking his head in the background. A scene like this is kind of why I end up loving this series, because as cringe as I kind of think it can be, sometimes the wackiness is more annoying than charming, but scenes like this are... Like, my first time seeing this, I just smiled and was like, oh, this is fun, this is cool.
I mean, from what I've seen in general, Zach, both the visuals and the presentation quality is, like, definitely using the 3DS very well.
Oh yeah, Yokai Watch uses the 3DS to its full capabilities. Like, not just presentation-wise, although the presentation and animation and models are all really, really good. Like, it's so easy to look at this series and just see, oh, it's a Pokemon clone. But it's so much more. But I feel like because Pokemon is just such a, like, I believe I've heard it's the biggest franchise in, like, currently.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to see something like this and take it seriously, because, you know, all anyone would think of is, oh, this is just trying to ape on Pokemon. But it's got so many of its own unique ideas, and it really is its own thing. And kind of in some ways, it is better. Or even if you don't agree that it's better, it's at the very least unique.
I mean, that's what you kind of have to do to compete with Pokemon, is find your own path, find your own ideas that make you stand out and be unique. And I know mostly indie games that have really struck out and did their own things that way, like Cassette Beasts and so on. But, you know, yeah, there's Yokai. What's the name of the other one that was really popular in the handhelds? It was like focused around like dinosaurs.
There's actually two of those. There's Dinosaur King and Fossil Fighters. Although I believe the one you're thinking of is Fossil Fighters.
Yes, yeah. That sounds familiar.
There's also Spectros, which was on DS, and I believe it got a Wii game as well. I'm trying to think of others.
Yeah. Monster Catcher simulators were never really my bag, or at the very least, they never drew me in the same way as like platformers or third-person like action games and so on. It was one of those things where I remember kids back in like kindergarten, when I was in kindergarten in like the late 90s, being super into the Game Boy Color Pokemon games. I borrowed one from a cousin. I played a little bit of it. I sort of got it, and then I kind of gave it back to him. It just didn't really hook me. Yet, for some damn reason, when I would wake up on like school day mornings before I had to go to school, and I would just have something on the TV just to watch while I'm eating breakfast. And usually it was the Pokemon anime a lot of the times, because I'd be watching like Fox, and I would sometimes get involved in some of the arcs of the Pokemon animes just because I kind of wanted to see where certain plot elements were going to go. But at the same exact time, it's kind of bizarre to me to think back on it, because I didn't have any investment in the franchise otherwise. I just kind of wanted to see, Charmeleon doesn't like Ash. Will he learn to like Ash?
I'm actually surprised, because I'm going to be honest, I could never get into the Pokemon anime. To me, it was way too repetitive, even as a kid. Just mostly Jesse and James losing to Ash over and over.
Yes. Which, I mean, I even graduated up to the movies. I saw the first movie, I saw 2000, I saw the Entei one, I saw Forever, and I think I saw... What was it? Pokemon Heroes, the one that's in like that Venice City. And I think that's about it. For some reason, I watched all of these. And I remember distinctly watching Forever, the time travel one with Celebi at my grandparents' house. It was just a thing that was on. That was just that era. There was no streaming. I would just watch what was on the TV. So I absorbed Pokemon through almost osmosis. And it had time travel.
You cannot escape Pokemon.
Yeah.
I would say the only Pokemon movie worth watching is the one with the Unknown. I believe it's called Secret the Unknown.
Yeah.
Alec actually rewatched a lot of those Pokemon movies with a friend, and he said the only one he truly liked was the Unknown one, and all the others are just very at best.
I remember getting legitimately sad when I saw the first movie, and the scene where Ash is turned to stone actually affected me as a child. I was like, "Oh no, Ash!"
Wow!
And when all the Pokemon were crying, I was actually like, "Oh wow, yay! They saved Ash!" And I'm just like, now at like almost 32 years old, I'm like, "Why did I care?"
When I was 6 years old watching that, my first thought was, I want to see them fight. Move away.
Yeah, Zach is only interested in the cockfighting.
I was only interested in the cockfighting. It was the only reason I played Pokemon. I wanted to see the big animals punch each other. And then the Pokemon movie was telling me to feel bad about it, and I said no. Anyway, I should have showed a different side quest, but I completely forgot to show it off at the time. So here I'm showing off something that is post-game, the Tower of Zenlightenment.
Okay.
Also, here's where I remember to actually put my favorite yokai in the team, because I forget why... Oh yeah, I think the reason I didn't have them in the team is that they didn't fit the team composition I was originally going for, and also my two favorite yokai are S rank. And generally, the higher the rank, the just generally better they are in terms of stats and abilities and what they can do. But their downside is typically that they skip their turn a lot more often. Yeah, so there's Kyubi, who I nicknamed to Kyuti. Because if you look at Kyubi, he looks like I believe his whole thing is that he's the guardian of Springdale. He's this eternal guardian of Springdale.
Yeah.
And you would think he would have a more deep guardian voice. No, instead he sounds closer to Bart Simpson for whatever reason.
Okay.
Like he has a little voice clip where he just goes, "Sha," and I'm like, what?
Okay, and he gets hit and goes, "Ay caramba."
No, but I wish. Yeah, I'm not gonna show off the whole thing because I think you gotta win 10 battles in one go. And at this time, yeah, we're already at half an hour. So I didn't want to show off too much, but I want to show off a little bit of it. Just because I think the harder fights are more interesting and show off Yokai Watch at its best.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is one thing I wanted to ask you. I feel like the monster catching genre is generally held back just because when you think of that genre, you think of just Pokemon. And anything that's monster catcher that isn't Pokemon is just a Pokemon ripoff. I mean, I feel like that's less of a stigma nowadays than it used to be.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you if there's any genres you like that you feel are held back in the same way. Like, do you feel like other speedy platformers get written off too much as just trying too hard to be Sonic?
No, I feel like because of the, relative polarizing nature of the Sonic the Hedgehog video games, when other people attempt to make faster or speedy games, there may be comparisons, but many times they have enough of their own ideas that they do stick out, and form their own identities. But when Freedom Planet came out, Freedom Planet was made by Sonic fan game makers of the past, and so it was compared to Sonic, though in many ways, it's a really, really great game in its own right, with boss battles that you could even say are better than a lot of the boss battles in the Sonic the Hedgehog games. But those comparisons, while they were made in a positive light, at the same exact time, the developers in Freedom Planet 2 very much so, while they kept to speedy platforming, there's a lot of aspects of the game design where they made things more combat focused or more dodge focused. They tried to try to separate its identity from being a homage to a nostalgic game, and instead try to make the franchise its own thing. Because when you're riding off of, because if there's anything that holds something back, when you're riding off of purely just a nostalgic property, it can sometimes be hard to forge an identity of your own and find an audience outside of just the people that liked that game you're emulating.
Yeah, now that you bring that up, I never really thought of it like that, but that is a good point. Because a lot of the times, I feel like especially if you make it might be not entirely wrong to say that anyone that makes a monster catcher now is probably less I mean, obviously they're trying to make a good monster catching game, but they might be more trying to catch a disappointed Pokemon audience rather than just get an audience of their own. And I feel like that's usually what tends to be the downfall, because I wouldn't say Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 1 and 2 specifically did this, but when the first one came out, there was definitely a lot of clickbait videos where it's like, is this the death of Smash Brothers? And no, of course it wasn't. And I hate when YouTubers do that clickbaity bull swirls, because all it does is just make people go, well, if this doesn't kill Smash, then it's not worth it. It's like, no, Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl 1 is good, I swear.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
But of course it's never going to get as big as Smash.
I mean, Zach, it is like the most clickbaity thing when YouTubers do that, where they're just like, is this the killer of the most mainstream thing that's the example of this? Well, no, because that's the most mainstream example of this. It's not going to kill it. That's always going to be the most popular thing. Honestly, regardless of quality a lot of the time. No, there's not a lot of cases I can think of where people moved on to a series that did... something better than the other series they were a fan of. They're still going to be deeply into that series no matter what. Maybe there's some examples out there, but that's usually how it ends up working out. It just, it's the problem with the whole system of getting engagement on this platform, where everybody has to be dealt in trial, have to grade things in trial by fire, or say something, extreme, or say something stupid that will make people click on the video. Because ultimately, no, I mean, Nothing is like PlayStation All-Stars, another game in that same exact genre, came out, and that is in no way a bad game whatsoever. Is it as strong as Smash? You could very much argue no, definitely not. But yeah, I highly doubted anybody thought PlayStation All-Stars was going to be the Super Smash Brothers killer. PlayStation has a lot of franchises that are, also very beloved, but Smash is like Pokemon. It's in a world of its own.
Plus, does something have to be a killer of something? Can't they just live together? Can't all the nations live together in harmony until the Pokemon Nation attacked?
Well, a good example, Zach, is if you look into like the kart racing genre. Of course, you got your Mario Karts, and they're all usually defining of the genre that they cater to. But if you look at a lot of the Mario Kart clones, there's a lot of really, really bad or shovelware ones. But you look at like Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, and that's generally considered a really, really good entry in that genre that just does its own thing.
Oh yeah, I played Sonic and All-Stars Racing. I don't remember. No, I think it was just the first one, but the first one I had a lot of fun with.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good kart racer.
It's a really good kart racer, and then Transformed is even better as it further expands out the amount of Sega characters and Sega-based tracks that aren't just Sonic-related. You got Skies of Arcadia, and I think you can play as Kiryu in that game from Yakuza, and you can play as Ryo from Shenmue, and all these characters with their own individual tracks. And then they made another one, and it was just all Sonic stuff. It was Sonic Team Racing. It was all Sonic things, and I was just like I, as a Sonic fan, was just like, this ain't it, guys. This is a downgrade. I don't know how you wouldn't have thought it wasn't a downgrade.
I would make the joke that are there even other Sega franchises in Sonic, but Sega is actually starting to move on to actually caring about their other franchises. So I hope those all turn out well.
And I would argue Yakuza is doing extremely well.
Oh, yeah, of course, Yakuza as well.
Yeah. And they handed off a bunch of their older franchises like Jet Set and Streets of Rage and so on to third parties to develop, but yeah, there hasn't been too much news on that ever since the announcement.
I'll take it as a good thing that hopefully means they aren't going to rush those games.
Right. I mean, the announcements have kind of implied, Sega is planning on trying to do other movies based off their other video games, or just other, media in general besides just, Sonic. They are planning, with the success of the Sonic movies, to branch out. And so that could very well mean that they'll maybe make some of these new entries in these video game series to sort of go along with their movie adaptations. But yes, let's hope that they don't bring back their classic franchises with movie tie-in games and the legacy that those have.
I hope not. I would like to see just old franchises come back. Or, something new, although old franchises coming back is essentially something new.
Yeah. I do believe Yokai Watch 2, despite, not specifically 2, but just in general, the Yokai Watch series does definitely deserve to come back. I feel like this had enough going for it to distinguish itself from its competitor, while at the same time putting so much effort, so much content, so much great presentation in terms of both personality and soundtrack. There is a place, I believe, for Yokai Watch on modern systems. It just needs better billing and better advertising from its distributors than what it was given when 3 was put out the door and almost nobody played it.
Yeah, it also kind of needs to, the presentation is very good. I have no idea how Jibanyan died. That still scares me. But, I also feel like it just needs to... I usually hate saying this, but I think Yokai Watch also needs kind of a bit more mainstream appeal. Which, I criticize Pokemon as much as I want, but I can always tell people that that's a much safer monster catching entry to go into. And when I say mainstream appeal, I'm not even like really talking about difficulty-wise or complexity, just more like just the presentation and how it looks. Like if you look at the box art, it really does just look like this is going to be a Pokemon cash grab, and then you play it, it's like, oh no, it's actually good. But like, it really does kind of look not great.
Zaha! Zaha! Zaha!
And plus, these games need better stories.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what the next Pokemon entry is and how it does. Like, there's always a place for something else to come in and try their own hand at this genre, but yeah, they need better pushes and better marketing. But at the same exact time, it's Pokemon, and it's always going to suck up all the market that it can. So it sucks, but it's going to probably always be that way, which is a shame, because this game very much deserved to have, you know, more people trying it out and that franchise to continue forth instead of having one Switch entry that we're probably never going to get in the West.
I mean, they announced Holy Horror Mansion, which looks like it's going to be a spiritual success for the Yokai Watch, so hopefully that does better, assuming it even comes out here.
Yeah.
Although apparently that's going to be taking another few years, so I guess we'll see how that goes. Anyway, that is the end of the video. Thank you for sticking to the end of a Yokai Watch 3 video. And if you have nostalgia with this series, let us know in the comments, because we need to engagement form more, I guess.
And also just because I'm genuinely curious to see, like, fans of Yokai Watch come out of the woodwork and express their love for the series. I'm sorry that I came off as one of those people that are kind of picking on the people that are into a specific niche, which, because, you know, I should talk with some of the stuff I'm into. But genuinely, I do appreciate that there are people out there still supporting franchises like this that deserve it more than others.
Yeah, I love the monster catching genre, and I really need to play, like, others, but sometimes they mostly just, I don't know. It also doesn't help that I have, like, 50 other games I need to play. It's always the issue, just, this year had too many good games, Brandon. This year had too many good games, instead I ended up playing through and finishing Yokai Watch 3.
And more to come.
Gotta get to Rebirth.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, not that I want to drag this out too long, not that we don't do that usually, but Yakuza Infinite Wealth also has a monster collecting side quest, and it's also really good as a monster collector.
Yeah, Zach showed me some of it, and I was blown away by, one, how ridiculous it was in terms of the context of why it's happening in the game, but also, two, just how fleshed out and detailed it is.
It has its own story. It has, like, some pretty challenging AI as well. It's surprisingly good. It's got a lot of depth and complexity, because that's just what Yakuza does with its minigames. They don't half-ass them. But yeah, that's the end of the video. I hope you look forward to what Brandon has for us next time, and have a good night.